On the night of May 15, 2008, a seemingly ordinary family home in Noida, India, became the scene of a crime that would captivate a nation and expose the deep flaws within its justice system. The victims, 14-year-old Arushi Talwar and her family's domestic help, Hemraj Banjade. The case, known as the Arushi Talwar double murder, remains one of the most complex and controversial in modern Indian history. This isn't just a story about a crime, it's a story about the central role and sometimes the misinterpretation of forensic evidence. The case was immediately shrouded in complexity. Conflicting theories emerged, the crime scene was contaminated, and the initial police investigation was heavily criticized. At the heart of it all lay the forensic evidence, a silent witness whose testimony was interpreted in wildly different ways. Let's break down the key forensic analyses that define this case. One of the most debated pieces of evidence was the bloodstain pattern analysis. Investigators looked at the patterns on the walls, floor, and clothing to reconstruct the events. The CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, theorized that the pattern indicated a cleanup operation had occurred, suggesting an attempt to destroy evidence. However, defense experts argued that the patterns were consistent with the initial crime, not a cover-up. The interpretation of these patterns was pivotal, and each side used them to support their vastly different theories. The scene was surprisingly devoid of crucial fingerprints. While some prints were found, none were definitively linked to the prime suspects. The absence of a foreign fingerprint became a key point for the prosecution, who argued it pointed to an insider job. Conversely, the defense used the lack of any usable prints from the scene to question the investigation's thoroughness, suggesting that vital clues had been missed. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of the case was the DNA analysis. DNA from Hemraj was found on a whiskey bottle and a pillow cover from Arushi's room. This was a critical piece of evidence. However, there were conflicting reports from different forensic labs, some of which were later discredited. The misinterpretation and handling of this evidence led to a confusing narrative. The presence of Hemraj's DNA in Arushi's room was a fact, but the interpretation of how it got there, and whether it was evidence of a struggle or simply a result of his presence in the home, was a source of endless debate. The Arushi Talwar case is a chilling reminder of how the interpretation, and sometimes the misinterpretation of forensic evidence can lead to profoundly different outcomes. This case illustrates the immense pressure on forensic scientists and investigators, and the critical importance of a meticulous and unbiased approach. It's a case where the truth, hidden in the shadows of a contaminated crime scene and conflicting reports, remains just out of reach, leaving us to grapple with a single unanswerable question: what really happened that night?